Hello guys, welcome here to Sunday Morning Tinkle. I'm Brian here. You may notice I'm on the full screen today. You may notice something else. Jason's not here this morning, unfortunately. He is enjoying a little vacation time, a little R&R. But shout out to him. Looks like he's having a good time out in Boston, Massachusetts. By the time he's home, this will have already aired. Or by the time he's home, this will have already been recorded. But it is not to air necessarily. So he comes back Saturday night, so we figured, well, we'll get ahead. We'll have a little fun. And in fact, we're going to have a little happy hour on this Sunday morning. A little Bacardi pina colada. Can I just say before we begin, I got an hour, okay? I got all the time in the world, guys. So stay tuned. This will be a fun show. But can I just say that this is by far one of the best Bacardi stuff. I've had a lot of Bacardi mixed stuff before, but this one tops the charts. And I could only get it in Canada at first. But now I finally found it in the States after so many months of searching for it. And I'm just so happy. So happy to finally find it. And again, you guys are watching this Sunday morning. I'm recording this on Friday night. So that is why you guys are seeing me drink. But again, stay tuned or don't, if you don't like just hearing me talk. But I'm going to begin with my rundown. Of course, I wasn't sure if I was going to do this or not, but coming up on the show, we're going to start with my rundown. We're going to talk some NFL news, including a coach that will likely be coming out of retirement, and this one should come as no shock to anybody. We're going to talk about two of the quarterback changes this week. We are also going to talk some NCAA basketball. I got some pretty interesting thoughts on some of the new Final Four sites. Then, of course, we'll have our Week 12, I believe. We're on... sorry, I haven't pulled that up just yet. Yeah, we're on week number 12, and we'll have our Week 13 Thursday Night Football pick as well. And we will end the show with a little tinkle on this, which was submitted by Jason, believe it or not. So, Jason does have a little bit of a impact on this show. Sorry. All right. So let's go right to the rundown. Let's start with the Chargers. Yes, I got to talk the Chargers here. So it was a disappointing loss yet again to Kansas City. Of course, we did get Mike Williams and Keenan Allen back, which was a big help to help us play close with the Kansas City Chiefs, but didn't exactly put us over the edge. I only watched a little bit of that game. I had to work early, and I kind of fell asleep on the chair, so missed quite a bit of the game, but, this is, again, I could blame the injuries all I want. I could sit here all day and list why the injuries were to blame, but it's not going to do anybody any good. This roster was built to compete with Kansas City. It's doing that, but we're losing to them, okay? That's not okay. Okay, we entered this season with high hopes, and again, to double down, we're not living up to it. I mean, and again, now we lose Mike Williams yet again to the ankle injury. He will not play today. So again, just difficult situation right now in LA, and look at all the injuries. But this falls on coaching, and I'm going to talk a little bit about that later on. But they've got to do something. They got to do something to fix the issues with the coaching staff. At the end of the day, it falls on that, and it falls on the front office. Especially after spending all that money in the off season. So, again, I could talk till I'm blue in the face, but to lose to Kansas City, to me, again, with the roster you built, I get a lot of them are hurt, but just unacceptable. We've also placed Dustin Hopkins on IR, which means that Dicker the kicker will stick around for just a few more weeks. So at least that's a good sign because I feel like we have a decent kicker. I just want to keep Hopkins, though, because I've seen what happens when we release good kickers. So, don't want to see that happen again and go down another long stretch of terrible kickers. But anyway, moving on. We got to talk the Bills and the Lions, of course. Jason would probably kill me if he's watching this and if I didn't talk about the Bills. But here's where I'm going to be brutally honest. Of course, the Bills barely held on. They barely beat the Lions, which I expected, to be honest. I low-key expected it because the Lions, again, best offense in the league, one of the best offenses in the league, and ultimately just one of the worst defenses in the league. But the Lions came to play, and they've been on a good stretch of late. And, of course, unfortunately, the Bills, not so much. And now the Bills have lost a key piece on that defensive front, Von Miller. He went down, was carted out. It looked like an ACL injury at first, based on or a serious knee injury, to say the least. It was not the case, thankfully, for an ACL, but still, they don't know the extent of the damage. All we know is he is out indefinitely as of Friday night, but he will miss time. He was very outspoken after the game, saying that we need to get rid of these turf fields. I can't agree any more than I already am with that statement. Von Miller's injury is very bad. Again, the Bills, for weeks, it's been Josh Allen's play that I think has been the talk of the town. Josh Allen hasn't played to Josh Allen standards of late. And now to lose Von Miller, a key piece of that defense. Again, a guy who's won 2 Super Bowls. It's certainly going to have an impact. Now, again, I get they're getting they're going to have Poyer back, I believe, Tre'Davious White. They're getting a key cornerback soon. But, to lose a leader like Von to injury, and a guy who's ultimately having a good year right now, it's not good. It's not looking good if you're the Buffalo Bills. Again, it sounds like it won't be season ending for Von, which is a big break for them, but it's going to be regular season ending, and this might put them in trouble in terms of chasing down the Kansas City Chiefs for home field advantage. And again, we look at the rest of the schedule for the Bills coming up. They got New England on Thursday night. They'll be on the road for that. New England's on a little bit of a stretch right now. I get they lost to the Vikings on Thanksgiving night, but they're right there. They're making strides so far, and I wouldn't necessarily rule Kansas or New England out of this thing. The Jets, another team that could give the Bills some fits the second time around. Same thing with the Dolphins. Really the only game on this list that I think you can write off as a guarantee, if I had to go that route, is the Bears game. Because I don't feel like you can write the division as a guarantee. So, I feel like the Bears are the only one. The Bengals they're gonna be that team again that I think is going to come to life when the playoffs start. The Bears, not a team I don't think will be there. The Dolphins, I feel like it depends on the weather, I guess. If they get the cold, I think the Bills have the advantage. But again, I don't think now's a good time to make that pick. Excuse me. But needless to say, Von Miller's absence will be a big impact for Buffalo going forward. At least from the leadership aspect and definitely from the playmaking aspect, it will have some impact. I think more the leadership impact than anything else. And Josh Allen, he's got to wake up. He's got to come back to Josh Allen form. I mean, he looked okay, But I just don't see that MVP Josh Allen that we saw before the bye week. We need to see that again if they're going to have a shot. Talk about early season upsets in college basketball. Let's talk UNC, North Carolina Tar Heels. They lose Friday night to Iowa State in the Phil Knight Invitational. Of course, UNC ranked number 1 in the nation entering this week, or during this past week. They fall to 5-0 Iowa State, and this should help Iowa State slide into the AP Top 25 in college basketball. In terms of UNC, this is a shocker. This, for all purposes here, this is honestly shocking. Again, number 1, they definitely, to me, are a team that's going to be a Final Four team, but as I look ahead, this was a game I didn't expect them to lose. If I expected them to lose anything, it might be in Indiana, maybe versus Ohio State or Michigan. But ultimately, I look at the ACC schedule, again, because they're going to have to play Virginia, they're going to have to play Duke. They're going to have to play... Notre Dame plays teams tough, but they were going to have to play at least Virginia and Duke. I think I could write up one of those games being a loss, but I don't think anybody expected this one to be a loss. So, it's kind of back to the drawing board, maybe a wake-up, a little bit of a reality check for UNC, as, of course, again, they are going to be the favorites to win the national championship. I don't think there's any less of an expectation right now if you're UNC, but they will certainly lose their number 1 ranking. There's no doubt about that. They are going to lose their number 1 ranking. I imagine, so Kansas also dropped a game against their opponent this week. So, Gonzaga's 3-1, Baylor's 4-1. If I had to guess, we're going to maybe see Houston be number 1, which is a shocker. And again, it's all going to depend on, what happened in Saturday's game versus Kent State, but I imagine that's a win. But we might be looking at Houston being number 1 in the AP Top 25 entering next week. I'm actually kind of shocked that we're talking about that, because usually it's Gonzaga and they're barely beating opponents that you wouldn't even consider making it past the Sweet 16. And then when they do get past the Sweet 16, they're playing opponents that they have no business playing in the first place. So, Houston could be that team too, but and I don't imagine, though, in the past I've been dramatic. I'm like, oh man, they should drop below the top 10. Nope. Honestly, after years and years of watching college basketball, what I imagine will happen is they're probably going to drop to 5. Maybe 4, maybe 6. I think 6 would be an insult, but, I think they'll stay top 5. I think I'd be shocked if I saw anything other than top 5 ranking after all this. So, again, we'll wait and see. It's going to be kind of a waiting game. I don't know when the next ranking comes out. I believe it's Mondays for college basketball. So, again, we'll see what happens. In terms of Iowa State, 5-0. Of course, they are unranked, which is interesting. But, the Iowa State Cyclones, I imagine, being a Big 12 team with a big win there. Of course, they beat Villanova as well. But Villanova doesn't have Jay Wright anymore. This could put them maybe 25th, if anything. But, again, we'll see what happens. It's still early. And looking at the other teams they beat, they beat IUPUI, they beat NCAA, they beat Milwaukee. Really, the two teams that are on this, the only two teams they beat that you could consider legit and somewhat legit are UNC and Villanova. So I feel like 25 is a safe ranking for them. I think it's too soon to talk tournament. So I don't want to say anything. I don't want to jinx anything. But I think it's too early to say tournament. But I think based on that win, if they make the tournament, they might be a team to watch when we go into March. I feel like they're a team that could play, maybe the 9 or the 10 seed at best. And I feel like they're a team that could upset and go to the Sweet 16. But again, it's early. Things change. Once you get through conference play, things can really change. So, but early on, the looks are pretty good for Iowa State, needless to say. All right, let's go on to the NFL news, as that's kind of it for my takeaways. So we talk about Sean Payton. Sean Payton, of course, retired from the NFL after the 2021 season. And now he's eyeing a return to coaching. And no, Dallas is not on his list right now. And frankly, I don't think Dallas is looking for a head coach upgrade at this point based on how they're playing. But Sean Payton has said he is interested in a return to coaching, with the Chargers and the Cardinals being at the top of his list. This was quite a debate in the car on Black Friday. So, of course, I have a friend who is a Saints fan. He wants Sean Payton back, and I don't blame him because Dennis Allen is not a good coach. So, he's been very adamant about wanting Sean Payton back. Well, I think what Sean Payton wanted was a change of scenery, if we're being honest. Dallas was a rumor for years, and I thought that was for sure a done deal. But based on how Dallas is playing this year, I don't see it happening. And I feel Sean Payton needed, again, he needed a change of scenery. Now, LA, I've seen in the rumors, but I look at how LA's playing, and again, Sean Payton would be the guy, I think, that could help Herbert. The problem is we have Joe Lombardi right now. And Joe Lombardi is Sean Payton's old offensive coordinator. See where I'm going with this? It's just going to be the same old story. However, here's the reason I would want Sean Payton as the coach. Because if Sean Payton's the coach, again, I feel like he's not quite necessarily the motivational speaker type. And I feel like he's the type, again, who has that championship mindset. Look at the Saints. The Saints, every year have been built to win a title. And the Saints this year, another offense that looks like they could have very well been in the mix. Okay, Jameis Winston was coming back off an ACL injury. Was playing okay. Hurt his back. He's no longer the starter there. But you look at it, Chris Olave, a guy who's an up-and-coming receiver. I think he's going to have a big year 2 breakout, depending on who the quarterback is of that team. I feel like quarterbacking is where they're lacking since Drew Brees retired. But what kept them in the race last year? Sean Payton kept them in the race last year. Okay? That's the difference between this year and last year. Okay? This year, it's Dennis Allen, not Kyle Allen. Dennis Allen. And let's face it, Dennis Allen is not a head coach. He's not head coaching material. Okay? I think he's proving that pretty well this year. Again, you have Alvin Kamara, a running back that's top. There was really no offensive changes this year, minus adding Chris Olave and then getting Michael Thomas back. And Michael Thomas, frankly, I think they're regretting not trading him. And frankly, I wouldn't be shocked to see him dealt in the offseason. Just hopefully not to LA. But, you know, where's Justin Herbert lacking? That's what I get. Justin Herbert has a top offense in the league. Okay, Keenan Allen is around him. Mike Williams, Austin Eckler. Okay, so he's got 3 good pieces around him. He's got a heck of a defense around him. He's got probably one of the best offensive lines in the game, and half of his O-line is banged up. Okay, so where are they lacking? Coaching. Okay, Sean Payton, I think, is that guy. Now, again, look at where, to keep on this argument, look at what Kansas City has besides Travis Kelce, who, again, saves Patrick Mahomes' butt every chance he gets. But Andy Reid is what he has. Andy Reid is, without question, a future Hall of Fame head coach. Sean Payton, when that time comes, will be a Hall of Fame coach. Okay? Justin Herbert gets Sean Payton, and they get rid of, I've been, sleeping, but, we get rid of our current coach. We get rid of Brandon Staley. We're a winner. Plain and simple. I think, based on everything Sean Payton has done in New Orleans, building that offense, building that defense up, and really just keeping them in contention over the years, I feel that's what Sean Payton could do for Justin Herbert. So, again, I like that prospect. In terms of if he goes to Arizona, see, I feel like he can win that division. I feel like that would be light work right now. Because we know Jimmy G is going to move on. We know Jimmy G is not coming back to San Fran next year. And I'm a little shaky on Trey Lance. I just don't think he's the quarterback of the future for this team. So that said, it would be easy for Sean Payton to win in Arizona. It would just be that easy because Seattle is kind of that team that's there. Probably shouldn't be there, but they're there. Arizona's pretty much the only team in that. LA, they're a team that's always going to be there. And again, defending Super Bowl champs, I get they're having a rough year, but they're going to figure it out. They'll probably be right back in the running very soon. So, again, I feel like this is kind of light work for him. I feel like he could, with this roster, I feel like if Sean Payton was the coach, we could be right in the mix. If we, of course, eliminate half the injuries as well. But I just feel like LA is the right fit. But again, if he can bring the same system to Justin Herbert that Joe Lombardi is running in, but again, I feel like it comes down to coaching, and Sean Payton ultimately is that kind of coach that can win. I just hope that the Chargers are not stupid and offer him a lucrative, 10-year deal like he's John Gruden. But again, time will tell. You never know what's going to happen in the offseason, and we could very well say we're keeping Brandon Staley, which I think would be a big mistake, but again, it's not out of the realm of possibility. Some big quarterback changes besides Mills getting benched in Houston, which unfortunately needed to happen. He's absolutely lousy. But the big changes coming this week. Carolina has benched Baker Mayfield for Sam Darnold, who is now healthy and ready to go. In addition, the Jets have benched Zach Wilson, who ultimately did not take responsibility for his poor play in the loss in week number 11. So, of course, the Panthers, I mentioned, going to Sam Darnold. The Jets, believe it or not, going to Mike White at quarterback this Sunday. That one was a little bit of an eyebrow raiser. Again, I don't know if it's just team discipline for the Jets. I don't know if it's permanent. But if this is permanent, oh boy. I am really shocked that it was not Joe Flacco that was named the starter, because, of course, he started the season, or he started at the beginning of the year as the team's quarterback, and ultimately did well. You know, he kept them in it. So I don't get why you don't stick with him. But Mike White is one of those guys I just don't know about him. In all seriousness, you know, I run my mouth a lot saying, oh man, Twitter guy, you know, he's coming for Peyton Manning's records. But in reality, I just don't know if he's the right guy for the job. I think it's Joe Flacco that should have been starting. And if I'm Joe Flacco this offseason, I might say, you know what, I don't think I want to be here anymore. So I wouldn't be shocked to see that. In terms of the Panthers, another team that went with the wrong guy. I think P.J. Walker is the guy that gives them the best chance to not only succeed, but, you know, potentially win more games. I get Carolina's out of the race. I get, you know, the Jets. I mean, the Jets are in the race, which is why I don't get why they didn't go with Joe Flacco. But for the Panthers, they're out of the race. I don't get why you don't go with P.J. Walker. See if you can get a couple more wins out of it. And, you know, ultimately I would have cut Sam Darnold. I just don't think Sam Darnold is the quarterback for this team. I don't think they really have a franchise guy on this team. But I feel like P.J. Walker, if I had to guess, he's ultimately the best guy for the job right now, based on how he's played. So, two teams ultimately going with the worst pick. Of course, the Houston Texans, they went with Kyle Allen as their starting quarterback, which I agree with. I think Kyle Allen's a better quarterback anyway than Davis Mills. In terms of Zach Wilson, I think this is going to ultimately kill his confidence. Again, you don't bench a young quarterback. So this was kind of an interesting one. Unfortunately, I agree with it, but I think this just proves that Zach Wilson is not the franchise guy for this team, at least not right now. All right, with that, let's go take our Tinkle or our anchor break, and when we come back, we're going to talk NCAA basketball, and we're also going to have our week number 12 picks and Tinkle on this. That's all coming your way in the second half of Sunday Morning Tinkle in just a moment. All right, here we go. Second half of the show, and we kick it off with some NCAA basketball. Of course, we pick up kind of where we left off, but in a different story here. So college basketball has announced their Final Four host sites for 2027 through 2030, and of course, there three of these sites are returning sites for the first time in an extended or two of these sites are returning for the first time in quite an extended period. Two of them, well, one of them is a one of them is a newcomer to the mix. And the last one is a familiar friend. So 2027, it has been announced, it will be held at Ford Field. That will be the first one at Ford Field, or the first championship in Final Four at Ford Field since 2009. 2028 will be Las Vegas at Allegiant Stadium, their first Final Four ever in the state of Nevada. 2029, Indianapolis will host. And of course, it is the third one this decade. And of course, they are also hosting in 2026 at Lucas Oil Stadium. 2030 will be at Dallas, and that'll be their first one, believe it or not. And I had some things to say about Dallas, but I think I'm going to rescind that after seeing that this is their first one in 16 years. It will be by the time they host it. But I've got to talk. Again, I'm so happy to see that Detroit is going to host, because Detroit hasn't hosted it'll be 18 years since the last time Detroit has seen a Final Four in a national championship game. So that is incredible, and I'm so excited to see that, because Detroit deserves to host it because of how long it's been. And again, if we're going to stay in football stadiums, they deserve to host it. If we're going to stay in indoor football stadiums, I mean. But can I just point out, why wasn't Atlanta on this list? And I get LA is not a domed stadium, but it is an enclosed stadium in terms of, they have a roof over the place. Now I get they have the breeze coming in through the side, but maybe LA SoFi Stadium could have been considered in this mix. I wish it was. And Atlanta, again, Atlanta is due. Atlanta is owed, in my eyes, for this. Because Atlanta really got robbed of theirs with the Mercedes-Benz Stadium there. So they were supposed to host in 2020. They have not hosted since 2013. So I kind of wish they were considered for it. Unfortunately, they weren't. The other one, US Bank Stadium, I'm shocked they weren't considered for it. But, good to see Las Vegas hosting. But I think we got to address the elephant in the room, and I may upset our good friend Zach Carmine with this, but why the fuck is Indy hosting 3 in this decade? Now I get Indianapolis, Indiana in general has a rich history with college basketball. Again, going back to Bobby Knight, the most prominent figure in Indiana sports history. So I get why Indy gets to host. But not for nothing, the 2021 championship, the 2021 March Madness was held entirely in the state of Indiana, in a bubble. Okay? To me, they got, in a way, a debt of gratitude. They got, in my opinion, it was very gracious of Indiana to host the whole thing and NCAA to give them the entire tournament. I think it was beyond gracious for them. Because, again, their rich history in basketball. This comes off a year where March Madness was canceled because of the pandemic. And this was supposed to be Atlanta's year. So I kind of side with the Twitter people saying Atlanta should have gotten first dibs. So maybe 2029 should have been Atlanta instead of Indianapolis. Indianapolis is hosted in 2021, and keep in mind, they held the entire March Madness in Indiana. They are hosting in 2026 as well as 2029, which is when they are expected to host again. They've hosted in 1980 at Market Square Arena. They hosted 4 times at the RCA Dome. This will be their 5th time at Lucas Oil Stadium. Again, it's just, to me, spread the wealth. For goodness sake, just spread the wealth, We gave them the entire tournament in 2021. Why are we giving them more dates, And again, I love the rich history that Indiana sports or Indiana basketball has had, or Indiana in general has had in college basketball. But there's no way we should be hosting it there as often as we are. Again, AT&T Stadium, I was going to make a big argument about this one because they hosted in 2014. However, that was the last time they hosted, so they deserve a shot to host another one. Houston is hosting in 2023. I don't know if I'd consider them necessarily as another venue that deserves to host. But I point out, what about St. Louis? St. Louis, Missouri has not, they've also got that dome that Kroenke has left vacant. Why isn't U.S. Bank Stadium considered? Another big question. And I look through it again. Mercedes-Benz Stadium there in Georgia should have been the first one considered. But I'm glad to see that Detroit was given a date. Detroit deserves one. They haven't seen one in almost 18 years. So, but again, I think ultimately Georgia, Detroit, Dallas, and again, I will agree Vegas deserves one right now. But Minnesota, to me, those are the top 5 venues that should have been the first to go to. Okay, those are the top 5 that should have been the first to go to. Indiana should have been, in my opinion, after 2021, giving them the entire tournament, should have been at the bottom of the list. Okay, it should have been, okay, we're going to consider you to host, but we're not going to put you at the top of the list. Okay, we thank you for putting together a great tournament in 2021, but you are not going to be our first consideration. I think that's what should have been addressed. If none of these other people want to host, you'll be the first one considered. But, the Dome at America Center, that's also another one I think should have been considered. They will be, of course, hosting the Battlehawks, St. Louis Battlehawks in 2023 as well for the XFL, but time is coming for that in the future. All right, let's get on to the picks here. But again, just my thought is Indiana shouldn't have even been at the forefront of the list to host the Final Four in 2029, especially because this will be their third in the decade. So, again, I feel like, just need to spread the wealth a little bit more. That's just my end thought there. Spread the wealth. Holy crap, an ad's playing. My apologies, guys. I'm going to turn that speaker off so I don't have to hear any ads on ESPN. But let's get on to the picks here. Buccaneers, Browns. The Bucs are favored by 3.5. I'm going to pick the Buccaneers here. I think they're starting to get things put together. The Browns are just kind of hoping and praying that Deshaun Watson, or, just kind of waiting for Deshaun Watson to return next week when he is eligible to do so. So I'm going to go with the Buccaneers. Bengals, Titans. Cincinnati is favored by 2.5. I'm going to go with Tennessee. I think not having Jamar Chase is going to hurt the Bengals in this game. I mean, they still got T. Higgins, but they don't have Jamar Chase and they don't have Joe Mixon. So I feel like 2 crucial people being out will certainly hinder them quite a bit. Texans, Dolphins. I'm going to go with the Dolphins. I don't even need to explain why I'm going with them. Just, they're going to win. Bears, Jets. Jets are favored by 6 points. I'm going to go with the Jets just narrowly. I think they're still, again, I still don't buy Justin Fields. I've said that all year, and I'm going to continue saying it because, again, Ohio State products at quarterback are absolute garbage. So, Jets are going to win that. Falcons, Commanders, and I believe Taylor Heineke was named the official starter for the Commanders going forward. I got to go with the Commanders. He gives them the best chance to win. They're in a tight battle for the division, and I feel like ultimately they're better all around than Atlanta is at the moment. Broncos, Panthers. Broncos favored by a point. I'm going to go with Denver here. I don't like Sam Darnold starting. If PJ Walker was starting, I think I'd give them a little bit of an edge. So I'm going to go with Denver. I think they're going to get their act together for this game. Ravens and Jags. Baltimore favored by 3.5. Baltimore's been kind of that team that's just been iffy all year. I think I'm going to go with the Ravens still because I don't necessarily buy the Jags, but man, it's so tough to go against Jacksonville here. On to the 4 o'clock games. Chargers, Cardinals. Chargers favored by 3. No Mike Williams, but Keenan Allen's back. So I kind of like the Chargers in this one, especially seeing Arizona's been kind of on a downfall since D-Hop has returned. But I feel like D-Hop will make this a game. So I do like the spread of 3. But I do think the Chargers will barely squeak this one out. Raiders, Seahawks. Seahawks favored by 4. I'm going to go with the Seahawks. The Raiders are just trash. Geno's obviously figured out something there, so is Pete Carroll. And I think they're going to keep it going at home against Vegas. Here we go. I believe this is the game of the week. Rams, Chiefs. Chiefs are favored by 15, and no shocker there. I'm going to pick the Chiefs. That's a game I won't be watching. But I guarantee you one thing, Travis Kelce will be the guy saving Mahomes once again, because that's the only reason Mahomes is relevant, is having Tyreek and Travis Kelce all these years. All right, Saints 49ers. 49ers favored by 9.5. I'm going to go with the 49ers here. I think they're going to be, I don't think they're going to win that big, but I think that win on Monday night was very convincing. So I think they continue the streak going in to this weekend. All right, Sunday night football. Packers, Eagles. Eagles favored by 6.5. I'm going to go with the Eagles. They're just that good right now, but I feel like it's going to be a close game because the Eagles have had a little bit of a downward slide the last couple weeks. So I feel like they're going to make it interesting, to say the least. The Packers will. I wouldn't even be shocked to see a Packers upset going into week number 12. So, again, just something to keep an eye out for. But if there is an upset, that's going to be the big one this weekend. Monday night football, Steelers, Colts. Man, 2 terrible teams. But Jeff Saturday isn't as bad as we thought he was. But he's still a bad coach. I'm going to go with the Steelers. I think Jeff Saturday is going to get out-coached here. So that's why I'm going to go with the Steelers. I think they'll barely squeak that one out. Going to Thursday night football, Bills and Patriots. There is no odds yet released, but I think the Bills are going to get their first win in the division. I think they're going to win on Thursday night. Again, I feel like losing Von Miller will certainly hurt them, but I don't think it'll hurt them near enough to cost them the game against the Patriots. All right, that's all the picks we got for this week. Let's go to Tinkle on this, and this again submitted by Jason, who is not here. But Brandon Ayuk got a touchdown on Monday night against the Cardinals in that blowout. And, well, he celebrated just like a lot of these players do, throwing the football at the wall, kind of like a spike. Well, I don't think he saw the worker there in front of him as he was celebrating. And unfortunately, it drilled this photographer in the end zone in the family jewels. So Brandon Ayuk immediately had to go up and apologize to him. No penalty, thankfully, in the game. But Brandon Ayuk, be a little bit more aware of your surroundings and tinkle on this for the week. I also want to end on a high note. Of course, Thursday was football for Thanksgiving. And Stefon Diggs, well, he felt in the spirit as he saw a kid in the front row for the Detroit Bills game. And the sign had said from the kid, "All I want for Christmas is to play catch with Stefon Diggs." And sure enough, Stefon Diggs grabs the kid out of the sidelines, goes out on the field, does a quick little game of catch, and brings the kid back to his parents on the sideline. So just wanted to end on that feel-good story because, again, it's Thanksgiving weekend. I feel like we all need that moment of gratitude. So good for Stefon, good for the kid. Another reason just to like Stefon Diggs and the Buffalo Bills. All right, that's all I got. Jason's not here to tell us what's coming up on No Final Bell, but be sure to tune in on Wednesday night, 5 p.m. Eastern on YouTube and Facebook Watch. They will be, I'm sure, talking about a lot in terms of the AEW stuff. Again, no Out of Turn 4 until January, but Jason will be back here on the show on Sunday, or next Sunday, and we hope to see you then. Until then, hope you all had a wonderful Thanksgiving weekend. I am off to Buffalo now, actually, because I get to go watch the Tampa Bay and Buffalo hockey game this week, so looking forward to that and getting a little day away from the Rochester area. So, and also to get to see my neighbor who I haven't seen very much since he's gone off to school. So, looking forward to that. If you do watch the Tampa Bay Lightning and Buffalo Sabres game on ESPN Plus or Bally Sports or MSG, just be sure to look for me. I'll be the one wearing the Ryan Callahan jersey in the stands on Monday night. So, but until then, I'll see you next Sunday. Hope you all have a wonderful week. Goodbye, everyone.